Wait, is that on? Is that one on? I can't see in my pocket here. We're good. Is it coming through? Sorry, mate. Oh, there it is. There it is. It's on. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Final day. Aloha Friday, huh? Hey, here's a little... So this is the end of week 9. Is that right? The last day of week 9. I want to share with you a little proverb to think about. Hang on, I've got to get this out. It's nothing new, but just because it's not new, it doesn't mean it doesn't work, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes we hear stuff a lot. We think, yeah, I heard, remember? Oh, I agree with that, therefore I must be doing it. That's bunk. You know, you can agree with something. It doesn't mean we're doing it, right? And I've seen this. You see, even Paul kind of shows this in his last letter that we have in 2 Timothy, and how people who started well didn't always finish well. And life is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And I would really encourage you guys to remember that, right? It's not how much you can lift, it's how long you can lift it, right? Talking about working out. It's not how fast you run, it's how far you can run, right? Guys, it is not how you start that really matters, it's how you finish. Every day, every week, every school, okay? For me personally, I will never really look in application to my schools, my second kind of level schools, until the person has finished the outreach from the previous school. There's some people, they want to come on staff straight away, or they want to do this school, or I'm doing this one first, I'm doing that. I always wait to see how they finish. That says a lot more to me. I've seen people who have been on staff for years, and they're quite respected and that kind of stuff, and they're great people. And then they leave, and you walk into their room or the house that they were staying in, and I have to say, it's really disappointing. And what's really disappointing about it is that everybody remembers the last that they saw, right? And you think someone who seemed to be doing so well, they just like leave trash, they leave it uncleaned, leave it unvacuumed, leave stuff there for somebody else, and they bail, they leave. That is just so like, really? See, that's not a measure of their value, but I think sometimes it is a measure of their maturity. And yet we all want great ministries for God, right? Clean your room, right? Finish the program well. Turn up on time, day after day. Stay focused until the end. What really chaps my hide is when I'm a staff of a school or teaching in a school, and I see people like 5 minutes towards the end of the time start packing up their bags and putting their laptop down, doing whatever, putting their bags together, putting the stuff in their backpack and standing up, getting ready to go. Apart from just being personally insulting, now you guys aren't doing that. You're not doing that, so I can say that. That shows like up here, they're not here. They're somewhere else. What if we went an extra 20 minutes? Is that okay? Now, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not an authority here. I'm just a visitor. Right? But, that ruins my plan. I've got something else planned, and finish well, right? It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Paul had issues, he had difficulties in life because at the end, when he's writing from prison in 2 Timothy, people aren't with him anymore. They did the no-show. They bailed. And what he wanted was to someone, to go the distance. That's the faithfulness. It's how we finish, right, in things. How consistent do we have? Everyone can talk a good fight, but can you walk the walk for a long time? And it's just something really I would encourage you with, because at this time of a school, it becomes so much like we know the routine. We know what we can get away with, and we know what maybe we think is unimportant or what is important. this is where you build the muscle. You build muscle. Okay, it's when it starts to get a little bit hurt. You know, spiritual authority is interesting too. We're all in. It's easy to be a good follower, and it's easy to be a good servant, and it's easy to be a good to be faithful when we all agree. It's when we don't agree that that our ability, our submission, our faithfulness, our stamina is tested. You know, have you found that? When I agree with a leader, or when I agree with my friend, or my spouse, or whatever, that's easy. But when we don't agree, is when that's tested. Right? The hotter the fire, the harder the steel. Right? Love the heat. Love the heat. Love the heat. So I want to encourage you guys, because I'm not talking to a bunch of DTS students who still don't know why they're here, right? You guys, and DTS students are great, don't get me wrong, but you know, you guys are here, you're committed, you're doing something else. And maybe something you're moving out of YM after this, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, but you're not out yet. Press in. Press in. Press in. And I'll tell you one thing else that I found in my own life. The more you pay for something, the more you let it cost you, the less willing you will be to give it up. You know, the less willing you'll be. I could go on about whether that's like being in school, whether that's how much you pay for something out of your own pocket, or whether that's an addict. The difference between being 1 day drink-free or 100 days drink-free. You know, like, oh, I can always start tomorrow. No. Today, right? We're running out of tomorrows. And so I just want to affirm you guys. Okay, you've been a really great group to teach. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the grace from those who may be ahead of me, and I appreciate the faith and taking a risk for those who feel like they are following after me. I really appreciate it. You've been a good audience. Finish well, and go for that. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. Actually, a bit later on. We don't have much time. I'm going to jump into something. I realized I don't. It's kind of on my to-do list. It's kind of written between the lines, so to speak, on the to-do list of the curriculum for this week. So I think we've kind of touched on everything we're supposed to touch on, but there is something else I want to talk about today. I want to finish very strong on the area of personal application and discipleship with us today, right? So I want to go back to the beginning. When I talked in the beginning about knowledge of the word does not build maturity, obedience to the word builds maturity. Okay? But before we do that, I also want to paint a little bit more of the historical background and what was going on, especially religiously and spiritually, in the time of the New Testament, the first century. And I think this is going to, because I'm just realizing I don't know if your other speakers are doing that, if they've been asked to do that, because they may be presuming, and you guys can help me out here, they may be presuming that, well, as they entered the New Testament, this was set up for you guys, right? But I want to share something with you which really helped me. What I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about cosmological dualism, pre-Gnostic thinking. Is that, I don't know if anyone else is coming with that or not. Okay. And you guys are welcome to jump in and help me out on this. This just kind of struck me yesterday. This is something that when I grasped the Greek mind spiritually and what they were going through, it gave me a fresh appreciation of why the gospel is great news. Okay, not good news. It's great news. Let me ask you a question. When did the gospel just become good news to you? Sorry, I got to turn this bad boy off. When did the gospel just become good news? Now, I know you're thinking, well, isn't that what the gospel means, good news? And okay, congratulations, that's great. You are correct, it does mean that. But when did the good news just become news in that case? If I stood up if I went down, to the pier and I stood up pulled out a little box or a little chair and stood up and I said, everybody, hey, everyone, I wanted to share good news with you. Right? Now people might be thinking, well, that sounds a little bit religious. Or what if I stood up And I said, hey, everyone else, can I get your attention? I just want to share some great news that I just heard. People might be thinking, who is this guy? Well, what's he got to say? It kind of sounds like it's really personal. It's great news. Got some great news for you guys. It affects you guys all, okay? Here's some great news. I've got an announcement. Oh, what? Free beer? Free coffee? Free trips out to the ship? I don't know what. But we say stuff so much and we presume we know what it means or that we're applying it to our life, right? And I really want to take you guys just today and for the rest, just to ponder this in your life. Never let the good news just become news, right? And I would always suggest, why isn't it great news? We throw words around and they become cliches, and cliches lose their meanings. And we have a saying, maybe the proverb, maybe you've heard it, in Australia we use it a lot, is familiarity breeds contempt. We're so familiar with something and we stop taking it seriously, or we stop appreciating it. Married to my wife for 19 years. It's easy to kind of get into a routine. I asked Molly once, I know you love me, babe. Do you like me? What do you like about me? I know you love me. But what do you really like about me? It's a very dangerous question. It's a vulnerable question. And if you're going to ask someone that, you need to be willing to listen to the answer. I want to be respected. For guys, it's very important. Respect is important. It's not a pride issue. It's like, I want to know that I'm making a difference, that I'm important. Are you respectable? So we don't want to live our life full of Christian platitudes and cliches. And if you let the Word of God become a book of information, that somehow is doing a good thing for you because now I'm increasing my knowledge about God, you run the real risk of familiarity, right? Just becoming familiar with it. And I'm not talking about familiar in a good sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But not being precious with it. The rabbis, when they have their children, does anyone have a piece of candy? M&M or a piece of candy or a piece of rice? Is there something in there? Breaking off a little tiny corner here, right? That's good. Maybe you've seen this before. Dr. Ron Smith showed me this. They would take a candy, a piece of, like a honey candy, and they'll put it on the children's scroll or the Torah or the scripture. They put it there. They open it up. It's a portion in Psalms that says, "For your word is sweet as honey to my mouth." And before they would start every day, they would pray. And they would bow down and they would take the candy from on the scripture with their mouth, right? Like that. And the rabbis would teach them, kiss the word. Kiss the word. It is sweeter than honey. It is goodness to us, right? Kiss the word. Don't become so familiar. You know what? I'm tired of honey. I want raspberry. I'm tired of this. I want that. This is precious. It's precious. Stay grateful. Okay? Gratitude builds faith. Gratitude is a statement of humility. It says, man, you got something, thank you. You did something for me I could not do on my own. I need you. Stay grateful. If you're having a hard time in prayer or worship, just spend time saying thank you. It's amazing to me how many times we say, let's just speak out some gratitude for God. Now, introvert, extrovert, culture, language, put all that aside. It's amazing to me how much silence there is in a moment like that. Let's just be thankful for God. Just say something, anything. Everyone around you says thank you for that too. It's true. Thank you for the Lord. To the Lord. I mean, we can just start with salvation, right? Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that one. Gratitude. Okay. Why is the good news great? Now, this is a little bit earlier in time period than when the book of Acts was written, but the thinking was there, the philosophy was there in the people, and it was coming. And you've probably heard about Gnosticism, Gnostic thinking, this idea that spiritual beings are trapped in a physical evil realm, and there's a separation. So, like anything with the enemy, there are always elements of truth that are inserted to get the uneducated or the undiscerning, the non-discerning, and the ones who don't know the word sidetracked. So yes, we're spirit, and yes, we're flesh, yes, we're soul, mind, heart, right, these things. But there is in the Greek mind, and this is why it's kind of like pre-Gnostic thinking. There was a true separation a little bit later on, after like 60s AD. But so there's this idea of what they call cosmological dualism, or dualistic cosmology, right? You guys have probably heard this. It's just a fancy way of saying a separation in the spiritual realm between spirit and physical realm. And we're trapped in that conundrum. Right? That's a fancy way of saying it. And I want to show you in very simple terms. And simple, not because you're simple, but because this is the way I understand it. Okay? I want you to go to Colossians for me. Colossians chapter 2. In fact, this word is used in Colossians a few times, but in Colossians chapter 2, Paul really hammers it. Who's teaching on this stuff? Danny's doing Colossians? He's doing all of that stuff, right? So he may touch on this, and he knows more about this stuff than me. That's like an understatement. So Danny is kind of like his chess to my checkers, right? The man's good, right? He knows. He's good. So Colossians chapter 2. Now in chapter 1 you see this a couple of times as well. In fact, chapter 2 really talks about a fullness of life in Christ. But if you go, chapter 1, verse 19. And in fact, what you'll find is this is the key verse for the book of Colossians. Well, this is what scholars presume is really good summary wrap up here. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. And through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself, all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. This is the NRSV. This is my SBS Bible. I did SBS with Yo and Barkle, We actually had books back then. There it is, and this is my, we spent a lot of time together in our SBS because we had the same small group and stuff. So let's go, let me take back to verse 15. He is the image of the invisible God. That image is the exact likeness. That's the word there. The firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers. All things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together, or by him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. I mean, this is also like power teaching here, right? For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. Verse 21, this is a contrast. And you who were once estranged and hostile in mind. What does your version say? Separated or something from God? Far away. Who were once estranged and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds. He has now reconciled in his fleshly body through death, so as to present you holy and blameless and irreproachable before him. Provided, that's a conditional statement, that you continue securely established and steadfast in the faith, okay? And he goes on. This word fullness is the key. And it means this. This is the Greek. Pleroma. Pleroma or U? P-L-U? I'm not sure. I can't remember. Is it E or U? Someone tell me that. Okay, close enough. I'm not a Greek scholar, but that's the word fullness. Right? What does it mean? All right. This is what's going on in the spiritual slash philosophical slash physical realm in the minds, the thinking of the Greeks and in the Romans of the time. Okay. So you've got this, right? You've got this. This is like the heavens up here, all right? And this is where God and all spiritual stuff dwells, right? That's a crown, right? Obviously, it's not the Sydney Opera House. And that's the physical. I'm sorry, this is a PowerPoint, or if you can't see this. And this down here is the earth. I know you probably can't see that at all because of my. Let's just put it up here. All right, so you got your trees, and you've got other stuff and whatever. And then you've got humans. You got men. You got women. You got kids. You got animals. And I drew them in different sizes. It's because that's the value of the status spiritually that is fleshed out in the physical. Okay, men are more important, and then you've got wealthy men, that kind of stuff, wealthy families. Then you got women. Then you have kids. Then you have animals. Then you have created objects. Right? And in between, the whole idea is that everyone is trying to get from here to there. And the physical is evil, and the spiritual is good. Enlightenment. Enlightenment is the passage of how you get from one stage to the other. Right? And this is complete enlightenment. Up here, you become one with the spiritual world. The gods exist up there. You've escaped the horror and the dysfunction of death and the physical realm and everything that goes with that, right? So you're trying to get from here to there. So what you're going to see in the New Testament is Paul talking about stuff like false religions, false teaching, false messiahs, super apostles, circumcision group, the ascetics, liberty, right? Too much liberty. Libertarians. He's going to talk about some of the other stuff. He throws out the words. You'll see this. And especially in Ephesus, places like that, we call that spiritual Disneyland. Everything is happening there, and you just pick and choose, but you're never quite sure what you need. So people were walking through like these trenches under these grates where animals like ox and cows and sheep were being slaughtered above them so that the blood and the guts can go down on top of them as they would walk through. And this was supposed to give them some sort of spiritual enlightenment. They were going to temples for pagan gods and having sex with prostitutes, male and female, for worship to these gods to try to attain enlightenment, to do things. They were giving offerings and doing other stuff. They were getting circumcised because they thought this was making them more spiritual. They were whipping themselves or hurting themselves or depriving themselves of things and ridiculous extreme fasting and painful stuff. The ascetics, because they thought if they punish the body, because the body is evil, then this somehow they attain more enlightenment, and they're punishing the body, so they're becoming more spiritual. Secret knowledge, paying money to people to say, Andrew, would you come and I want to pay you $50 for an hour, or for 10 minutes, or for some wisdom. Give me some wisdom, some enlightenment. Christianity is not a secret religion. Hallelujah, yeah. He makes it knowable. He makes himself, he's so awesome. Right? They're doing this sort of stuff. Apostles were calling themselves super apostles compared to Paul, because everyone's out there trying to get on the teaching circuit, having their own groups, their own disciples, their own followers, their own churches, that kind of stuff, and competing with one another. This is why Paul talks about, the apostles, you want to talk about the apostles? I'm more than they are. Not that I need to brag to any of you guys, but I've done this, I've done that, I've been shipwrecked, I've been flogged, I've been beaten, I've been left for dead. You know, I've seen Jesus. So he's I'm not trying to defend myself to you guys. He's saying basically what he's saying is this: if this is the only way to get you to listen to me, don't be tricked by them. I only preach Christ crucified and raised again. It's not about me. It's about him. Right? Corinthians. Oh man, that is like a soap opera. We only have 2 of the letters. There were more that were written, but we only have 2 of them. I mean, you got incest. You got children sleeping with their spouse's parents. You've got fighting in the church. You got ecstatic worship. Here's another one: ecstatic worship. This was common in the day. It was modeled after what the Greeks and the Romans would do. The more frenzied and trance-like and out of control you got in worship, and louder and louder and louder, well, the more spiritual that was. And I have to tell you, sometimes I feel like I see some of that today. Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter how high you bounce and jump around. How straight do you walk when you come down? Is it application in your life? Oh, I've sat through 8-9 weeks of DBS. Really? Are you making your bed? Well, what's that got to do with DBS? I don't know. You tell me why that would be not a spiritual activity, to steward where you live and to respect the people who live with you. Do you try to get a work duty early? Now, if someone says, hey, I got nothing more for you to do, go. Whew, it's sweet, man. Okay, go do your study, do whatever. But we respect the corners. That's me being culturally sensitive as I'm writing the letter. Right? Contextualizing it. Now I get it. Now I get it. Don't kill people. Don't steal. Seriously, come on. We all want to be called disciples. Really? Just be a follower. Okay? And so Paul is addressing this stuff a lot. Why are people trying to do this? They're selling stuff. Because they're desperately trying to escape. Every culture has to deal and tries to deal with this issue of guilt and sin. Only Christianity, right? I am not like the other gods. Okay. What does this word mean? Fullness. There are 7 steps. I need another color here. It's like a ladder of 7 that you try to climb to get from the physical to the spiritual. Okay? And the idea is you try to do different things to do this. And sometimes people think, well, I can just jump one and go up to there. And their point is to go up to here and not like fall down again and lose your way and karma and everything else. And they didn't use that word karma back then. And the idea was to get up here. The more enlightened you became, the more spiritual you became, the closer you were to escaping this maelstrom of the physical, spiritual being torn apart and getting away from this. But you never knew for sure. So they're doing all these rituals. They were trying to seek the other religions. They were taking on other gods. You know? And the gods up here would never come to earth. And if they did, they came in like mutated forms or in other types of forms or combination of forms. You've got the Greek pantheon of gods, the different Roman gods, gods of the sea, gods of the stars, gods of the ocean, gods of the world. Then you've got other gods in between. It's all happening there. But the thing is, they're unpredictable. They're unpredictable, and some of them you think are good and they can do good stuff for you, but they were tricky, they were deceitful, they were corrupt. I've studied mentoring and discipleship. It's what my master's degree majored in, right? And I looked at this, and it's funny, all the academic literature you read out there about mentoring and stuff, it seemed like this theme is what you need to do is kind of define mentoring and what you mean by that. They all go back to the Greek mythology where mentor, the word mentor comes from this Aphrodite who took human form. She took on human form in the form of mentor in order to, at the request of the king during the Trojan Wars, to mentor his son. So mentor there was involved with Telemachus, but she was in disguise. And this is Greek mythology. Okay, it's all this stuff going on. Jesus comes. What works do we do? to do the work of God. And I want you to understand this. This isn't a teaching they got one day in Sunday school, like, oh, really? Okay. This was their world. Now, the Jews thought they believed in one God, right? And they were waiting for the Messiah, but still they were bound up by the ritualistic practices of legalism associated with the law. The idolatry of, like, we have to protect all these other things in order to protect the law so that God would have mercy on us. But there was a separation through that with God. And the law wasn't fulfilling in the way that people were operating it with it. They weren't letting it do what it was supposed to do. And there was a separation there. Who would this Messiah be like? Would he be on the back of a horse defeating the Romans? Would he come in, just fireballs would come out from his hands, and would he just defeat them that way? Would the kingdom be set up in Jerusalem? All this sort of stuff, right? So this is building on the fact that the kingdom of God is a spiritual kingdom. He didn't have to convince people that the spiritual realm was real. Everyone knew that. We know that today. I mean, most people will know that today. There are very, very few true atheists. Most of them agnostic. They'll say they're an atheist, but they don't talk to them for 10 minutes and they believe in something. Just not Jesus. Paul comes and he says this. And this, by the way, is pleroma. That's pleroma. This is a definition in Greek of pleroma. The ladder to heaven, right? The steps you take to reach enlightenment. And Paul says this. He is pleroma. He is the fullness. He is the fullness. Like, whoa, what do you mean? And in that passage in Colossians, and you see he talks about it in Ephesians and other places as well. He said, not only is he the ladder. Oh, where do I get that Jesus' secret knowledge? No. You don't get it. You don't get it. He came to earth. And you know what? He lived as a man. Well, how is that possible? This is bad. This is sinful. Yeah, but here's the thing you got to realize. He wasn't bad. He was perfect. He didn't do anything wrong. He came and lived as God among us. Like, what are you on, crack? God among us? That is beneath the dignity and the philosophy of the Greeks. But he was only perfect. And not only that, he did this. He died. What do you mean he died? Yeah, but he never sinned. He was absolutely perfect, so he was raised again. And Paul talks to him about being fully human and really embracing death as a human. You know why? Because people were saying, this is other heresy you get in the days, well, Jesus wasn't really a man, he was just a spirit. This is why Matthew, the Gospels talk about Jesus was on the cross. They pierced his side, he did die, they took him down, he was confirmed as dead. The Muslims believe that Jesus was taken off the cross and Judas was put up there. Other people believe that he really wasn't dead, they took him down and he didn't die, that's why he raised again. Other people believe that he really wasn't totally flesh, he was just spirit, that's why they couldn't kill him. This is why you see in the writings in the New Testament, these things are confronting these falsehoods. And it goes back to the accounts of the Gospels. What the people who saw Jesus, knew, felt, did, witnessed. Acts, witness. Witness, witness, witness. You, Holy Spirit in you, do it. You can do it. Okay? And not only that, if you believe in him, in what he did and how he lived it, he became everything. All enlightenment is him. He is all of truth. And if you believe in, hitch yourself to him, you now, my good friends, are in heaven whether you are a man, a woman, or a child. Sorry, all the cat lovers. Maybe dogs. I don't know. Maybe kangaroos. Kangaroos, maybe. No. I'm not going to go there, right? But you guys can be there, but here's the deal. All right, I shouldn't have said that. Here's the deal. Focus on me, right? See how the color is red? But he says this, you're good too. You guys are all good because of what I have done, right? On the cross. There is no other way to the Father except through me. There are other gates. It's a narrow one. This is the way it goes. John 15:1. I am the vine, you are the branch, the gut, this thing. He doesn't say that. He says, I am the true vine. You ever thought about that? I am the true... No one talks about the true vine. There are other vines out there, guys. I am the true vine. Right? So where are you getting your nourishment? Where are you getting your standard for living? Where are you getting your yeses and your nos and your okays? Who are you going to challenge you in your life and how you live as a disciple? The people who are your besties? People who are struggling too, so they have to kind of be gracious? Are you going to go to the person you know will just give you a straight answer? You want to grow or just get older? Because I'll tell you one thing, we all get older. You don't need to try to do that. Doing a school doesn't mean you grow. And it comes down to the basics. The everyday master the basics, guys. Go back to that. No job is beneath you. No schedule, right, is less than you. Seasons. We just need to be faithful in the season we are in. If you feel like you're not being released spiritually or by people or by yourself or whatever it is to go to the next season of your life, maybe you need to go and finish one that you didn't finish properly the first time. Why don't we just do it right the first time? I'm not talking about perfection, I'm talking about integrity. We all make mistakes. Let it cost you something. A guy comes to DTS years ago, has no money, was living out of his tow truck, okay, earning money to come, gets here, doesn't have the money. We take him, we say, okay, you can come. He says, I'm going to earn money. So he starts getting sponsors to do weeding around the base. This is years ago, right? To do weeding around, I'm going to get sponsors to make money. People are giving him money, to do it. He's got the weekend coming up. He's going to spend the whole weekend just weeding, doing jobs for people and weeding the base, right? Before that happens, 2 weeks before that happens, someone drops $2,000 on him anonymously, pays for his fees. By the way, he's the type of guy, when someone sent him $10, he would bring $10 to us. He had a jar of change, he would bring that to us. He had $7.52, he would bring that to us. Okay? He wasn't waiting until he had $2,000 collected, on the side before he brought that. He gave what he had. People like that, guys, I'm encouraging you, right? People like that, I have never seen go without. If you withhold, you will be withheld. I've seen that. I've seen that. If you know you're called, man, all in. All in. Okay, God is speaking to me personally as I'm preaching this to you. I said, don't think I've got it together. It's one of the downsides of teaching. Where was I going with that? So he's saying you can be... Where was I going with that? This is the fullness. This is how people were thinking. So when Jesus came along and did this, and Paul came along and started talking like this, people, they don't think, now was Jesus necessarily the Messiah? Or now, I don't know. And this is a new teaching like they did at the Areopagus, you'll see this in Rome. In the book of Acts. He's in Corinth. They would go along, was it Athens? Athens, thank you. He's in Athens. They say, we want to hear more about this interesting idea. Because they were all into philosophy and the next big idea. And they heard this and they said, that doesn't make any sense to us, but you know what? That makes absolute sense to us. Because it made absolute sense to their worldview, to their religious and spiritual world that they were living in and trapped in. And it was the way. It was the answer. And because they were being faithful to that, signs and wonders were happening everywhere around them, and they could not deny it. He is the fullness. He is everything. He is the way. He came to us. He is God. He came to us. And then he gave his life for mine. He paid the price of all of this depravity in the physical realm to reconcile to himself. He does not need to be reconciled to us. You realize that, right? We need to be reconciled to him. And he did that as well. And he did that for the people who thought there was this absolutely insurmountable, non-understandable, right? Non-negotiable, yet non-guaranteed steps to try to get out of here, this mess, to a spiritual, eternal existence. And even who even knew what that was? And here is a good God who is the creator of everything, sending his only son to come to be a person to get chewed up, spat upon, spit out by the world for doing nothing wrong, and giving his life willingly. And then he calls us friends. In order so that if we believe in him, and he raised again, by the way, as a man, because he defeated death, so we know with him, advance to go, collect $2 gazillion. He is pleroma. He is the fullness. This is the mindset that the people were under, especially the Gentiles, the Romans, and the Greeks were under in that day. This is their mindset. They had to do stuff. Even the Jews thought that. They had to obey stuff. They all thought that as well. They had to try to capture mystical ideas and philosophies to try to somehow better themselves, or to beg and cheat and steal or offer or sacrifice in order to just secure something better in the next life. What happens to us afterwards? And Jesus says, and Paul says here about Jesus, he is the pleroma. He is the fullness of everything of God with us back in heaven. Believe in him and you're there. And you know what people said when they heard that? That is great news. Good news is an understatement. It's a cliche. If it's a cliche to you, I'd encourage you, this is what I started doing. I stopped calling it the good news, I started calling it great news. Because I just would say good news all the time. To quote Francis Chan, I can say it in Greek. So what? What does it mean? Good news. Good news. It's great news. Okay, so whether you're good news or great news, you get my point, right? It's okay. He is the fullness. And this cosmological dualistic mindset was growing and growing and growing. And it got more sophisticated. It became Gnostic thinking a little bit later on. And that was a big issue for the church. And it still is today. We separate stuff completely and we're stuck here and he's out. He is the fullness. He's the way. So when you're hearing about stuff like in Ephesus where there was a temple to Artemis, and that was a major economy maker for that city. Major, major, major. And as a way of life. Well, the people are causing all sorts of ruckus in there because people are turning away from Artemis and following the fullness. They're getting the fullness for free. Right? Corinth. Athens. These places all were built around this stuff. Major, major stuff. And all the stuff that went with it. All the wickedness that went along with it. All this huge diversity. It's there. Francis Chan, you guys look it up. He talks about, maybe you've seen it, he talks about discipleship. And he says discipleship, it's like, have you guys seen this? It's like a little clip out of a bigger video. It's really good. I won't bring it up because we don't have time. You can come up here, John. But he says basically, I'm good, you can come on up here if you want. He says, discipleship, it's like we talk about it, like, we're gonna go and have a study on discipleship. He says, he has a daughter, a teenage daughter. If he says, go and clean your room, she says, okay. She goes to her room, she comes back in 2 hours later. She doesn't say, now Dad, when you said go and clean your room, I went in there and I've been thinking about that for 2 hours. And you know what? Now I get what you mean when you say clean your room. She doesn't do that. She cleans her room. Hey, let's come and have a Bible study about discipleship. I can say it in Greek. That's what Francis Chan says. Isn't that amazing? Oh, I can say it in Greek. Well, do it. Are you being a disciple? Disciples make disciples. But how are we walking out who we are? And maybe why aren't we doing that? And that's what we're going to talk about in our final session today. How do we walk to the talk? You know, it's not a smackdown, right? I want us to be lifted up together. Okay. Sometimes, in order to stand up, we've got to go to our knees a bit, huh? Yes. Make it cost you something. It cost him everything. We did. It cost him everything.
Take just a quick bathroom break if you guys need to, but then we're going to go to the prayer room by 9, and then afterwards we'll come back in here, take a little break, and then we'll have our last session with Jeremy. So see you guys at the